Yeah, Harold, we are live. You can start. Harold, do you hear me? Harold?
Yes, I can. Hey, Abhijit, how are you?
Uh, Hi. Yes. So we have
Okay.
started the session. You can start. You can
Oh,
just start with your
okay, perfect.
introduction.
Can you see my slides? Okay.
Yes, I will load your slides on the screen shortly, but you can start.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Harold Simansky here of MBA Mission. Thank you all for joining us today. Um, I first want to thank GMAT Club for making this all possible. We've been partners with GMAT Club for an awfully long time now, and I think we are a very powerful partnership when it comes to helping people get into their business schools of their choices. Right now, we're about to talk about last minute MBA applications. And with the first set of deadlines, I believe Harvard Business School is January 3rd. From there, deadlines keep on coming fast and furious, with the majority of them being already passed by the end of January. And as one knows better than I certainly do, now is the time to really make sure you're dug into your applications and you're doing the best possible applications you can. Over the next bit of 30 minutes or so, going to talk a lot about what you can do for a last minute application. Some of it is probably more relevant to folks who are even a little bit further out than most of you are. Hopefully you'll still find some value there. And things that are really only appropriate for people who are 2 months out rather than 2 weeks, I'll flip through fairly quickly. With that in mind, I will be watching comments throughout this entire presentation. So by all means, let me know if you have some questions. I can't say that I'm going to answer them right away, but I can certainly will be answering them by the end of the session. Just before I forget, I would love for everybody who's watching this video on YouTube to like us, ideally, and subscribe to the GMAT Club channel. The value of what we do here is greatly enhanced if you continue to like our different videos. And in particular, this one, it'd be great if you can hit that like button. But with that in mind, let's dig into this notion of the last minute MBA application. Okay, so let's talk about really how to approach this. And probably the best way of thinking about it is let's look at what's inside the mind of the admissions officer. So then you'll have a better sense of what is important at this point and what's less important. We're going to show you what the long-term plan is, recognizing that less relevant for folks, but some of you I know are only going to be applying next year, which for those of you who really want to dig into round one for next year, we're looking at a starting point of probably April or so. The reality of the last minute plan, that's what we're here to talk about, and about MBA Mission Q&A. And I think the most important thing you can know about MBA Mission is if you would like a free 30-minute consultation, just to hop on the Zoom with one of our 25 or so consultants, by all means, go to our website and you can do that. We are not salespeople. We will answer your questions. And at that point, if we can be helpful, by all means, let us know. So let's get inside the minds of the admissions officer. And really what folks should understand, first and foremost, is this is a very human process. So it is not simply you take your application, throw it over the transom, if you will, whether it's ChatGPT, and I'm exaggerating here, AI, or some other algorithm that looks it through your application and some go forward, some get rejected immediately. That's not how it works. It absolutely is a human process. So that means you certainly have to touch on the human elements of all that you're doing. And this is particularly in terms of these things. Really, why are you passionate about that particular program? And for me, that is probably the key distinction between how an HR professional might be thinking about it. Also, if you start talking about industry in particular, AdCom, they are smart people, but they may not know everything. So by all means, don't get too tied up with the industry you're coming from. And again, what I would also say is admissions committee members know on their end, they recognize that folks make mistakes, make small mistakes. So I tell people, do not get worked up if things are not 100% perfect. There's going to be typos. There's going to be other pieces to it. Instead, think about what do you want to say to the admissions committee that's truly, truly relevant. One thing I want to say to all of you is remember to like us on YouTube. And I'm going to keep on harping on that because it actually allows us to really get our videos out there to a lot more people, which then allows us to do more and more videos. But again, talking about the whole admissions process is, first of all, recognizing just how competitive it is. And how does this really manifest itself? The reality is that some of you who are going to apply recognize you're facing really a numbers game. And at that point, you have to, again, make your stand out and move beyond just being a engineer from India, for example, and instead recognize that you were like nobody else. I'm going to pop here and just make sure we don't have any comments. So obviously, as you think about what you should do, how admissions committee members should think about how they think about each application, you have to recognize there's many different stakeholders: professors, students, alumni, recruiters, and dean. So this speaks to all the things you have to communicate. With regard to professors, you need to show in your application you're smart enough to do it, you're interested enough to do it. When it comes to students, you have to show just how you are a team player. You have to indicate, probably through your resume, probably through one of the essays, though likely not all, how you have really supported people in your life, professionally and personally. Alumni, are you going to be able to show a career path that is very much something in line with the alumni, with what they end up doing? And this speaks to how recruiters also, how they think about it, how AdCom thinks about it in the world of recruiters. Are you telling them something that's actually achievable? Can you do what you want to do, as well as is aspirational? At the same point, you're a graduate from one of the top programs. Are you going to also be able to show just how you want to be in the center of business? And the dean, obviously, indicating just some other stakeholders at the university. So let's talk about the long-term plan. And I fully recognize for most of you, the long-term plan is maybe you've done already, but the reality is many of you have not. So you're going to be judged across a few different dimensions: your academic abilities, your leadership experience and potential, your interpersonal skills, your diversity, and the mutual fit with the target program. Academic abilities, you will have shown it through your GMAT score, your undergraduate success. Leadership and experience and potential. This, again, is leadership in terms of both in the office and outside of the office. And I want people to keep all of this in mind, because whether you're 6 months out, 6 weeks out, 6 days out, you have to communicate all these things. Interpersonal skills, very much shown in your essay. Can you get along well with people? Are you somebody that they want to have in their community? Diversity or international experience. This is something that's become more and more important for business schools. So at this point, it's worth you talking about your own experience in when it comes to things like inclusivity, when it comes to things like global perspective, and a mutual fit with the program. And this is the part that is frequently overlooked in those last few days before an application is due. And that is, you're applying to not a business school, you are applying to a specific business school. And you have to be able to communicate that, why you want to go to school X versus school Y. Okay, again, the ideal long-term plan, you can see some of us will start after the GMAT. Some of us, as far as consultants go, we love people starting May 1st, we'll frequently tell people. And that gives you a lot of flexibility. But I suspect most of you have not done that. So I'm going to move on from that, other than saying if things don't work out this year for you, whatever reason, then maybe this is the type of plan you'd want to do next year. Okay, still continuing on the long-term career path, long-term business school path, business school application path. Again, sort of going to flip through that. Okay, so what does the last-minute plan really look like? So one of the most important things you can do is start triaging your time, figuring out exactly those things you want to emphasize and those things that you can de-emphasize. So one of them is assessing your candidacy. And the extreme of this is something like this. The average application can take anywhere from around 15 to 30 hours. Keeping that in mind, you also have to recognize if you do an hour on one school is likely you won't spend time an hour on another school, unless, of course, your time is unlimited. So put that through the lens of schools that are likely to accept you, or the schools that you're likely to go to. And the perfect ultimate example is Stanford. Stanford is an incredibly long application. It has 2 major essays, 3 smaller essays, and it absolutely requires a good amount of school research. Why Stanford? And not in a cliche way, but why Stanford? Stanford will take you about 30 hours. The likelihood of success in round 2 for someone applying to Stanford without me knowing anything is probably less than 10%. Is it worth for you to spend 30 hours on that versus potentially 2 or 3 other schools? Keep that in mind. Planning each application, yes, don't start writing. Again, outlining, recognizing how different schools' applications fit together. Which do you want to do first? Which do you want to do second? That is worth spending time figuring it out. And one way it's certainly you do that is by figuring out what the different essay questions look like. And one way to do that is go on our website, mbaMission, and we have tips and videos and other information for all the top schools and all of their essay questions, and we help you get started on that. Customizing your essays for each school. This happens across a couple of different dimensions. And probably the most important dimension is making sure that the school that the application you do for one school is not something that you will do for other schools as well. It is the ability to indicate why NYU is different from Columbia, why MIT is different from Haas, why Wharton is different from Chicago in a very specific way. Move beyond the cliches. The best way of doing this is having a conversation with somebody who goes to that school who can give you the inside information. Get beyond the website. Crafting a B-School resume, yes. At this point, go online, go to GMAT Club's resources, mbaMission's resources. A business school resume doesn't look like any other resume. It is not a professional resume. It has a lot to do with in terms of impact, accomplishments, far less to do in terms of responsibilities. But crafting a good business school resume can take you 2 to 3 hours, and that's time well spent. Determining and expressing fit with the school that speaks to the customizing your essays for each school is, by all means, indicate why this school is better than any other school. And like I said before, the best way of doing that is having a couple conversations with people. And with that in mind, let's just take a minute here to go through each of them very quickly. But also let me take a minute here to recommend that everybody like our video on YouTube. Like I said, the more popular videos we have, the more people see them. The more people see them, it makes more sense for us to make them. And then at that point, likes equals more videos. We can go through some of this quickly. I'm assessing your candidacy. You can see academic ability, GPA, GMAT, other. That generally means other online courses. Professional impact and initiative, achieving beyond ambitious, realistic goals, fit with the target program. All of those are important. That noted, the schools you're looking at are incredibly competitive. So I look at it slightly differently is, as you assess your candidacy, where does that take you? And what I mean by that is, okay, if your candidacy at the top M7 schools is like anybody, is around less than 20%, are you willing to go into this process, recognizing you may not get into any school? Or are you assessing your candidacy and say, listen, it may be tough for me to get in the top 10 schools, but I want to be in business school next year. At that point, then let me look at other schools as well. Planning each application. What we talk about multidimensional brainstorming here is, we have a example here, but what multidimensional brainstorming means to me is this idea of picking up on those pieces of your life, those aspects of who you are that look like nobody else. So I always tell people a great way of assessing this or thinking about this is just say, okay, in my current job, in my current profession, how many people like me are going to be applying? And the ultimate example is I'm a management consultant with McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, and I'm applying to business school. We as a firm have calculated that someone with that profile is probably 200 to 300 people with that same profile who are applying. There are probably 200 to 300, first year, strategic consulting analysts who are applying. Wow. How can you set yourself apart? Probably not with your professional experience. You have to look somewhere else. And again, that's something we'll keep on coming back to here. And you can see in this example, it is not just that this person is a project manager at a big company or the health committee leader at a big company, but let's talk about him being on the theater board. Let's talk about him being a good grandson. And that's what we mean about multidimensional brainstorming. Think about yourself across many different directions. And here you can see some professional experiences and some less professional experiences. So professional experiences get into things like, how did you forge a unified team? What was your relationship with your client like? Did you face any ethical dilemmas? This, again, is something in the professional setting you may want to talk about. However, when it comes to other pieces of what you do professionally, let's move beyond the day-to-day of your role. Let's instead look at those other things you are doing, like being a health committee leader. Okay, again, it's happening at work, but it's much different. And then even more to the extreme is, okay, what are those things that are truly like no one else? And on the one hand, we have something, the theater board, what are you doing outside of the office? But then we're also having something that's much more personal. How are you as a grandson? I think that's really the question. And that is a great point of really differentiation, meaning finding something that's unique in a personal way. And this person happens to be a great grandson, whether it was traveling with a grandmother, actually helping with one of the fundraising efforts for that this person's grandmother was sort of suffering from, an issue that his own grandmother was benefiting from. And again, that's sort of a neat little approach, which is those things that are particularly unique. Listen, here we have some steps to take here in terms of figuring all these things out, defining yourself across multiple dimensions, and then getting some real examples around it. And there's really no perfect answer in terms of which one you want to emphasize more. There's no perfect answer in terms of how many examples we're looking at here. Instead, what you're looking at are points of differentiation, how you are like somebody else and how you're not like somebody else. And I'll tell you, as a firm, and what we see is the closer it gets to the deadlines, really the more boring essays become. You have not taken a moment to put in that creative process. You just started throwing some things onto a page. I think at the end of the day, you really have to take the time now to start recognizing how you are different. And how you are different, again, may take some time to get that story together, but once you do, that will be really advantageous. And I can't keep on saying this enough. There's just too many people who, quote, look like you. And the reality is that if they look like you, they're probably better than you in some ways. If you went to school A and got a 700 in your GMAT, I can guarantee you there's a person who went to school A+ and got a 720 on their GMAT. There just is. You have to really reach and dig for that piece that is really different. You know what? I'm going to leave this one up. Investing in number 3, customizing your essays for each school. We'll talk a little bit about it more, but I am going to take this moment to again recommend or hope that you will like us on YouTube. And maybe even subscribe to the GMAT Club channel. Let me also take a minute to look at your questions. Let's sort of pause here as we're just about halfway through. Okay, wouldn't have thought of considering alumni and the dean as stakeholders at the time of application. That really helps them. Thank you. With 14 days remaining, would you retake the 690 GMAT or go with it and focus on your essays? Great question. I always tell folks, what will it take for you to do better? And if you say to me, Harold, I've already put in 30 hours, I can't imagine anything less than another 30 hours of actually moving the needle for me. And moving the needle, we mean going up by at least 20 points. Then I'd say, forget about it. Don't put in any more effort. Go straight to your essays. If, however, you say I just had a bad day, and at that point, if you can just want to go in and take it again with minimal study, go over a couple of practice tests, 1 to 2 or 3 hours, then I'd say go for it. But anything more than sort of taking it Again, with minimal preparation, I probably wouldn't do it. Question about high school experience or more recent experience, and the answer is they don't put a lot of stock in high school. It really is very important as far as what you did from a how recent you did it. And it's always this question of, you don't want to imply that you sort of peaked 5 years ago. You want to imply that your career path is very much upward trajectory. With that in mind, let's go back here to the reality of the last minute plan. Invest in number 3, customizing your essays for each school. Go out there and figure out how one school is different from the other. In a perfect world, it means talking to somebody at that school to help you figure this out. Less perfect is go online, do your research, and move beyond the core. Move beyond to those classes or clubs you're not seeing other places. And a perfect example here is right now it's become popular entrepreneurship through acquisition, basically a search fund going out and buying a company rather than starting one. Booth and Kellogg do a great search fund conference each year. Not every school does it. If you're interested in a search fund, if you're interested in something, a different type of entrepreneurship, you could talk about how Booth and Kellogg, they do it jointly, are doing this great ETA conference, entrepreneurship through acquisition conference, that other schools just don't do. Customizing your essays for each school. Business schools know the essay questions. The admissions committee at every school knows what other schools are asking. If they see something as a pure copy and paste, they're not going to be happy with it. It's that simple. It doesn't take a huge amount of effort to really customize to make sure you're answering the question. So that is certainly research worth doing. And you can certainly find out a lot about that on our own website as we talk about essay tips. Okay, your business school resume, again, really important. First off, and most important maybe, is one page. Over the years, I've had maybe a handful of people who do 2 pages. It's very rare. And it speaks more to the, what I would say, the depth of experience, either because they've worked more than 10 years and it's shown the cutoff for 2-page resumes, you've worked for about 10 years, or you've done multiple things, all very, very impactful, that smell and look different. It is very rare for me to encourage anybody with less than 10 years experience to have more than 2 pages. Again, most recent experience are obviously the best. At some point, you have to start cutting. Certainly that first job out of undergraduate, I'm not sure how valuable that is honestly. If you've been there for 6 months, a year, I like to call them throwaway jobs. Everyone has a first job. Maybe include them, but don't even bother having a bullet point. Crafting a B school resume, talked a little bit about this already. Okay. Fit with the school, again, a great way of indicating fit with the school is by talking to people, being able to really mention people's names within your essays. Some schools, Columbia and MIT, ask specifically for the people who you spoke to. And like I said before, it's not bad for you to mention somebody's name in the context of how you're going to contribute to the school. Wharton specifically asks, how will you contribute to the school? But it's implied with other schools as well, that you're going to get there and you're going to be a good citizen and you can contribute in a unique way. Again, more of this expressing fit with the school. Sometimes people are most intimidated by finding people to speak to. In that case, it's LinkedIn, it's LinkedIn Plus, it's club presidents, it's really friends of friends. No perfect answer here, just a lot of shoe leather. So where should you invest your time? I think one place you can invest your time, and I know I'm going to be a broken record here, is to like our video, like GMAT Club videos. And the other place you can certainly invest your time is finding out about each school. But we'll go through it a little bit more. Okay, let me ask another question. Thanks for the call, Harold. I consistently get 720, 73 on mock tests, but the real GMAT got 690. I just want the pressure relief. I'm not needing a better score to actually perform better. I would probably just go for it. Just at the end of the day, just sign up one more time, give it another shot, and then put it to bed. I think that's sort of it in a nutshell. Okay, so let's talk about the last minute plan. listen, we've already gone through this. If people, again, where they really fall down is this notion of every essay written for any school all sounds the same. It's worth it for you to take some time to really try to customize things. And it, again, ideally by talking to people, but even just doing school research, so you get behind the website, you get behind the core, you get behind sort of the cliches. Where can you save some time? I am going to touch on this only to indicate what you could be doing if you ended up having more time. And that's what I mean by that is you end up applying next year for whatever reason. Alternative transcript, that speaks to this notion here of, let's say you have a soft quantitative background, or you've had some potholes in your academic career. What you can do is certainly some online courses. At this late date, what I tell folks is, at a minimum, you could say, I've started MBA math, and just sign up for it. And even if you haven't finished it, at least you can say in your optional essay, I recognize my quantitative weakness. I have signed up for MBA. I've begun MBA math, and we'll finish it before I attend business school. School visits, at this point, don't bother. If you got waitlisted, maybe you go, but at this point, don't bother. New community service projects sort of won't fly. Doesn't come with a lot of credibility. Speaking to multiple students or alumni, 2 or 3 good conversations is all that you likely need. Listen, I don't want to manage your work here. The reality is you grab as much time as you can, and whatever that means. The reality last minute plan, again, I don't want to manage your work. I will simply say that your average application takes anywhere, a good application is maybe 10 to 15 hours. Some applications are going to be far more than that. But of course, recognizing it's last minute, let me just say where people fall down. And I think where people fall down is, again, boring essays. I think where people also fall down is filling out the actual application itself hours before the deadline. And it is incredibly stressful, and you don't do a good job, and you drop some mistakes in there. Instead, what I tell people to do is start filling out the actual application now. Do it over the weekend, do it when you're tired, but get it done by this weekend, by Christmas. Just get it out of the way, and then your life will feel a lot better. Again, more practical tips. This is a 6-week timeline, which obviously you do not have. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this by any means. Okay, what if you have fewer than 6 weeks? Again, do not panic. You can still apply. That's certainly the case. I've certainly worked with people who pushed out really pretty good, successful applications in a week, but they have leveraged their time and they've leveraged my time. And what that really means by that is pushing sort of when you're tired to do the application, giving your recommenders just a couple of bullet points and let them go, working on that resume, or at some point go with what you got, but really spending time on the essays and doing school research. I would certainly want you to do 1 to 2 hours of school research. That will make a far better essay than spending that extra hour or 2 polishing an essay that is like any others, not specific to the school, is boring, you sound like anybody else. We talk about this. Yes, submitting 2 excellent applications better than 4 mediocre applications. Consider European part-time executive programs. The bottom line is yes, but somewhat beyond the scope here. So now the question is, and I'll get to it, the reality round 2. Obviously, you guys are in round 2 now. So the question really is round 3. For certain people, round 3 is certainly a possibility. Let me tell you what they're looking for, what admissions committee members are looking for in round 3. They're looking to fill holes. And what I mean by that, they are looking for candidates that are somewhat less representative, that are actually folks who do not look like other people, as well as this notion here of you really bring something unique. And so what do I mean by that? Investment bankers, consultants, it is very unusual that you would be accepted in round 3. There are only so many seats, and they've already been filled. Somebody who was a pilot somebody who may even be coming out of sort of non-business backgrounds, they may be still looking for 1 or 2 in round 3. So by all means apply. Or for those of you who seem more traditional, then find some angle that nobody else is using. Let me also answer a slightly different question is, does it hurt you to apply more than once? Does it hurt you to get rejected round 2 this year and apply next year round 1? And the short answer is it doesn't. About 20% of the Harvard Business School class has applied at least twice, if not more than twice. So there is a marginal benefit for applying more than once. That noted, practically speaking, if you do a round 3 application and you want to turn around and do a round 1 application, I'm not sure you're going to have a lot more to say. And again, a point I really want to emphasize is that the chance of acceptance is dramatically higher in round 1, certainly than it is in round 3. The chance of acceptance of round 1 is substantially more than round 2. So at this point, if you're thinking to yourselves, okay, what do I actually do? A short answer is, well, think about, can you stay at your job longer? Can you apply round 1 next year, which would be the most compelling, when you do the most compelling application? Or do you say, you know what, instead of applying to 10 schools, I'm going to just apply to my 2 dream schools. If it works out this year, I have enough time to do 1 or 2 applications really well for the round 2 deadlines. Do I end up applying maybe just to 1 or 2 schools, gearing up for reapplying to those schools next year for round 1, and then a whole bunch of other schools? Listen, it's always the case too. Very simple. Is a better application always beats a worse application. So if you feel like it's just not coming together, forget about it. Apply next year. Great. Just as we're coming to an end here, what I'm going to do is a few things. Actually, let me pause here and simply say at mbaMission, we do our work is we do a really good job helping people get into business school. That's the bottom line. GMAT Club, our partner, does a great job of helping people just understand business school better. We work together on a number of things, not the least of which is our videos. So I'm going to ask you to like the YouTube video again. That will, more likes means more videos, which means more value add here. But with that in mind, by all means, see us as a resource and see us as somebody who can really help you through this process. Now, let me go into a little bit more detail about what we do. Very quickly here, but mbaMission, #1 firm, highest rated. Honestly, there's really, we do a great job. And we help people get into every school when all said and done. We have a lot of consultants, so we can always find somebody who matches with you in a very particular way. Opportunities to try us, look online, look at our website. The most important, maybe this free 30-minute consultation with an mbaMission senior consultant. You can ask us whatever you want. We do not review essays. That's the one thing that we don't do as part of a 30-minute conversation, but you can certainly ask us whatever you want. Like I said, we get a lot of stuff online. We have a lot of services. For most people now, you may be looking just hourly services, or later down the line, you may be interested in some of our interview preparation services, and that we do particularly well. Harvard certainly has a different type of interview. Wharton has a different type of interview. So we certainly do those in a unique way. Our team, look us up online. As you will see very quickly, 5-star ratings galore. So let me leave this slide up, which again is our URL. It also has my own personal email on that. You can certainly reach out to me, and you can sign up for a free consultation right on our website. Again, gonna sort of sound a little obnoxious here, but like our videos, subscribe to the GMAT Club channel. And with that in mind, let me quickly answer some of your questions. Yeah, great question about students applying to schools outside of the US and Europe. The bottom line is we work with folks who are applying to every school across the world. I certainly have worked with clients who are applying to school in Singapore, schools in Hong Kong. There's a great school called the Asia School of Business in Kuala Lumpur. All of the European schools, certainly, all of the really across the world. All of us are very familiar with it. We have graduates of those schools as some of our consultants. So from the perspective of have we worked with a school that you're applying to? The short answer is almost certainly, no matter where it is in the world. Very good then. We're now getting to about 40 minutes into this conversation. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask you for your last questions. And then I think that's about all the information that I certainly have. The one thing, maybe one last piece of information is if you're ready to go to business school, by all means apply. Do the best application you can right now. And the way you make it the best application is think about the unique aspects of who you are and connect it to a particular school. Why is that school the best school for you versus another? What are you going to bring to that school? What is that unique piece of yourself that you can bring? With that in mind, again, Harold Simansky from mbaMission. Final encouragement to like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the GMAT Club channel, and by all means, if you have further questions, reach out to mbaMission directly. You have my email, as well as you can sign up for a 30-minute consultation. Okay, everyone. Good luck in this process and have a very great day. Bye now.